Hello and welcome to the City of London Corporation's Apprenticeship webinars. I'm Claire Tunley, the Head of Employability at the City of London Corporation. Since the levy was introduced back in 2017, we've supported a number of businesses in the city to understand how apprenticeships work, how to make the apprenticeships work for their business. The process can seem a little bit complex and confusing, particularly if you're a smaller business and you might not have a great HR team to engage with the process. But if you're paying the levy and you really want to use your investment, these webinars are for you. To help businesses understand the process, we've designed a series of 8 videos to dismantle some of the complexity around apprenticeships and simplify the steps involved in taking on an apprentice. We're covering a range of topics, including the apprenticeship levy, stakeholder engagement, training providers and endpoint assessors, and how to recruit. Whilst all the information that we cover is accurate and complete today, please do refer to the Government Apprenticeship website for the most recent information, as things can change. Today I'm joined by Nicola Bolton, MD of Acumen Work and formerly the Shadow COO of the Institute for Apprenticeships. And we're going to go over the Apprenticeship Levy today. So hello Nicola.
Hi Claire.
So we hear a lot about the Apprenticeship Levy. Can you tell us exactly what it is, Nicola?
Absolutely. Well, it came in from April 2017, and basically any business with a pay bill of over £3 million is liable to pay the levy. And the levy is reported and paid to HMRC via the PAYE process, and it's done on a monthly basis. And essentially those funds that the business pays, the levy funds, are held in a digital account for a period of 2 years. And employers basically draw down from their digital account to pay for the training of the apprentices that they employ.
So the levy money is held in the employer's name for 2 years, and what happens after that?
Well, at the end of 2 years, basically the funds expire and they go into a national pot. So really businesses ought to be drawing down, otherwise they're losing the money that they're paying into the scheme.
So Nicola, what can the apprenticeship levy actually be spent on?
Right, well, before I talk about what it can be spent on, I think I just want to remind the businesses listening that both new and existing employees can become apprentices, and there's no age limit, so anyone over 16 can become an apprentice. And the levy can be spent on apprentices that spend at least 50% of their time working in England. So for businesses that are covering all of the UK, they need to just sort of think about that work balance to start with. Okay. So as I said, there's 2 things that can be spent on. The first of those is training, and this is training for the apprentices obviously, and it can only be spent with an approved training provider. All of the approved providers are listed on the government website, and Claire, I think you've got a separate webinar on training providers,
We do.
Right? Good. And the important thing to know here is that the apprenticeship training the funding is covered up to something called a funding band maximum for a particular apprenticeship. And basically, when you look up on the apprenticeship standard or the framework that you're using, there'll be a figure quoted there that tells you as a business what that funding band is. And if the costs of the training and assessment go over that maximum, then you as the employer need to pay the difference out of your own budget.
Okay, that's interesting. I think we've heard some examples of employers looking at degree level apprenticeships, for example, where the funding band maximum is 27,000 for the whole 3 years. So that's the maximum that a business can draw down from their levy to pay for that. Is that right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I said there were 2 things it could be spent on. So as I say, the first one was on training. The second one is on something called endpoint assessment. And basically that's the assessment of apprentices by an independent organisation, which is something that's needed before they complete the apprenticeship. And once again, the approved assessment organisations are also listed on the government website.
And we also have a separate webinar on endpoint assessors. So are there some things that the levy can't be spent on?
Absolutely. You'd expect that, of course. You can't spend it on wages, you can't spend it on travel and subsidiary costs. It also can't be spent on work placement programmes or indeed the actual setting up of the apprenticeship programme in the first place.
Okay, so a business wouldn't be able to take on an assistant to run an apprenticeship programme and use the levy to pay for that assistant?
That's right.
Okay. So we've heard about the levy and the businesses that pay the levy will go into their own digital account. But what about businesses who aren't liable to pay the levy but do want to take on an apprentice? How do they pay for the training?
Well, what happens is that these non-levy paying employers actually share the cost of training and assessing their apprentices with government, and this is something called co-investment. And basically what happens is that if you are a non-levy paying employer, then you actually pay 10% towards the cost of the apprenticeship training, and then government pays the rest, i.e. the 90% balance, up to the funding band maximum.
We've also heard about the possibility of transferring some levy payments to other employers. Can you tell us a bit more about how this will work?
Absolutely. So from April 2018, the government plans to allow levy-paying employers to transfer funds to another employer or apprenticeship training agency through the Apprenticeship Service, and that's the digital apprenticeship service. And you'll initially be able to transfer up to 10% of the annual value of funds that are entering your apprenticeship service account.
So does this mean a business could perhaps transfer some funds to someone in their supply chain, for example, where they want to support them to take on apprentices?
Absolutely. And I think the only thing that employers need to be aware of is the state aid rules when transferring and receiving funds from other organisations. And that basically says that the maximum amount an organisation can receive through such a transfer of funds is €2 million over 3 years.
It sounds like if you're going to do some transferring is to check the government website with the rules coming in from April 2018 and the state aid. It sounds like businesses need to just check this out themselves in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So Nicola, you've mentioned the digital account that businesses will have where their levy funds are held. Can you tell us a bit more about how businesses get this account and how it operates?
Yes, of course. Well, what we're talking about here is creating an account on the Digital Apprenticeship Service. And you register online for that, and there's a web address on the slides as part of this webinar. And basically you need to create this account so that you can receive your levy funds for you to spend on your apprenticeships, actually use the account to manage your apprentices and pay your training provider, as well as actually then stopping or pausing payments to the training provider as well. So it's really important for you to register as quickly as you can on it.
Okay. And what about where we've got a business might be part of a larger group? Can those funds be collated together or connected in any way?
Absolutely, and what you're talking about here, Claire, is this thing called connected organisations, which actually will allow an employer to collect group funds, say across a conglomerate, for example, into a single account so that you can manage it in one place on the digital apprenticeship service.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicola, for taking us through the Apprenticeship Levy. Do join us for some other webinars, but I just want to say thank you very much to Nicola.
You're welcome. Thank you.